Hey everyone, this is the video for Treasure Island Lesson 11. We have vocab to go over, a chapter to read, and a few workbook pages. So let's get started. Our vocab words for the chapter are on page 93 in your workbook. So if you want to head there first, let's check out the 6 vocab words before we begin reading. So the chapter is called My Life Hangs in the Balance. So that kind of means like your life is on the line, like could go one way or the other. It's hanging in the balance. But we'll see what that means when we get to it. These are the 6 vocab words. The first word is taunt, and that's a verb. It means to make fun of or tease. So if someone is taunting you, they're teasing you. Okay. Next word is ringleader, and that's a noun. A ringleader is somebody who's the leader of a group that causes trouble or gets involved in illegal activity. So sometimes maybe in like your little friend group, you're the ringleader of the group. And I don't mean that in like the illegal activity way, but you're just like the troublemaker. You're the leader of your group, and you're like the tricky troublemaker one, okay? I can think of a couple of you that I would consider ringleaders, but don't get involved in illegal activity, okay? All right, next word, insolence. Insolence. So that's a noun. It means rude behavior or speech. So I can also think of a couple of you who have been insolent before, who have shown insolence. Just kidding. None of you have ever been rude. Next word is scurvy, and I didn't know that this was one of the meanings of the word scurvy. Scurvy is also it's like a disease that I thought, pirates get, or like on the Oregon Trail, people used to get scurvy because it's like, I think your like teeth rot out basically because you don't get enough vitamin C. So it's like you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. Like on a pirate ship or on the Oregon Trail, there's not really access to fresh vegetables and fruit. So you get scurvy. But that's the noun form of it. Scurvy is also an adjective that means mean or not worthy of respect. So if you are scurvy, it means you're mean. Interesting. Okay, next word is hostage. That's a noun. A hostage is a person held prisoner unless another group or person meets the demands. Okay, so right now, remember where we left off with Jim? Jim is the hostage. Jim is Long John Silver's hostage right now. He's being held prisoner. Last word is depose, and that's a verb. It means to remove someone from office or a high rank. Okay, so like the highest office right now on the ship would be captain. So if they're trying to remove Captain Smollett and put Captain Long John Silver in charge, they're going to depose Captain Smollett first. All right, so those are all our words. Let's get started with our chapter. Chapter 8, I think. Yep, chapter 8. My Life Hangs in the Balance. It begins on page 72. So you can listen to me read it out loud while you track in your own reader, which hopefully you still have. You haven't lost it or ruined it or hurt it in any way, because we need to keep these readers nice for years and years and years. Or you can pause the video and read it yourself, and then fast forward the video until you see me working on some workbook pages. All right, let's get started. On page 72. You guys there yet? Hopefully. After I taunted the pirates, Silver's men were itching to punish me. One stepped towards me, but Silver stopped him. "Stop there," he cried. "You're not the captain here. I'll teach you. Cross me and you'll go where many a man's gone before, to feed the fishes." Okay, pause. So remember, Jim was kind of being sassy towards the pirates and John Silver, saying, well, here are your options. You can kill me, or you can take me back to England, and I'll go easy on you with the courts once we're there. And some of the pirates didn't take too kindly to that threat, and So one of them was advancing towards Jim, but Long John Silver, Captain Silver, said, I'm the captain. You guys can't threaten Jim. And it says, you'll go where many a man's gone before. So you'll go where many men have gone before to feed the fishes. So that means, like, if you died in the water, you would be feeding the fishes. It's kind of gross. So he's saying, don't cross me, don't go against me, or else I'll kill you. Silver's man stepped back, but an audible murmur rose from the other men. No one lays a finger on the boy, Silver growled. After this, there was a long, uneasy silence. I stood straight up against the wall, with my heart beating like a sledgehammer. Silver leaned back against the wall, with his arms crossed and his pipe in the corner of his mouth, as calm as could be. But he kept one eye on his unruly followers. The other pirates drew together at the far end of the log house and began to whisper among themselves. One after another, they would look up, but it was not me they were looking at. It was Silver. Eventually, they went outside, leaving Silver and me alone. Now look here, Hawkins, Silver said in a whisper that was barely audible. You're within half a plank of death, so you're close to death. They're going to try to throw me off, but I'll stand by you through thick and thin. I didn't mean to. No, not till you spoke, but now I see what sort of man you are. You stand by me and I'll stand by you. I'll save your life if I can. But if I do, it's tit for tat, Jim. You've got to help me out if I get into a sticky spot with the squire and your people. You've got to do what you can to save John Silver. So Long John Silver's trying to make another deal with Jim. I'll save you from the pirates, but you have to treat me right and save me with your people. I was bewildered. So that means like flabbergasted, shocked, okay? It seemed a hopeless thing he was asking. After all, he'd been the ringleader from the beginning. I told him I would do what I could if it should come to that. Then it's a bargain, he said, still whispering. I'm on the squire's side from now on, and you and I will stick together. So now all of a sudden, Long John Silver is on the squire's side with Captain Smollett and Dr. Livesey and Jim. That was quick. He changed sides awfully quickly. We sat in silence for a few moments, and then Silver continued. While we're sitting here, perhaps you can explain something. Why do you suppose the doctor decided to give me Flint's map? He asked. My face must have expressed complete astonishment. I could not imagine why Dr. Livesey would have given Silver the map, and I wondered if he really had. Silver saw that I was surprised, but he did not press me for an answer. So Jim just found out something interesting. Dr. Livesey gave Long John Silver the real treasure map, or so he says. Interesting. There's a reason for it, no doubt, he said, shaking his head like a man who expects the worst. Just then the door opened, and one of the mutineers stepped in. Or more like it, he was pushed in by the others. He was visibly trembling, so he was shaking. Hey, Trigger, can you shut up? We're trying to read here. Goodness. He's over there just rolling around on the carpet being loud. How rude. All right, 74. Don't worry, lad, said Silver. I won't eat you. I know what's happening. The buccaneer presented a slip of paper to Silver. The black spot, said Silver. I thought so. They're fixin' to mutiny. Silver didn't waste a second. He called the others in. Let's hear your grievances, he said. Then I'll give you an answer. So they came in, all the pirates, to give Long John Silver the black spot, which, remember, means we're not on your side anymore. You're dead. A pirate by the name of George Merry laid out the case against Silver. You've made a mess of this cruise, John, he said. You let the enemy out of this here trap for nothing. Then you wouldn't let us go after them. And on top of it all, you insist on protecting the boy. Is that all? Asked Silver quietly. I'd say that's enough, retorted Merry. Well now, look here, said Silver. I'll answer these points, one after another. I'll answer them. I made a mess of this cruise, did I? Okay, and he's continuing here. You all know what my plan was, and if we had stuck to it, we'd have been aboard the Hispaniola this night, every man of us alive, and the treasure stowed safely in the hold. Now you have the insolence to stand for captain over me? You, that sank the lot of us? Silver paused, and I could see the other men's faces that these words had not been said in vain. You say this cruise is ruined, Silver continued. By gum, you're right about that. We're close to being locked up, but there's one thing that may save us yet, and that's this boy. You scurvy dogs want to kill him. What sort of fool plan is that? Much better to keep him alive. Maybe you didn't know that there's a rescue boat coming to get these gentlemen, but there is. And when the boat arrives, you'll be glad we have a hostage to bargain with. So there's a rescue boat coming for Dr. Livesey and the Squire and Captain Smollett and Jim. And Silver wants to use Jim as a hostage, so they have Jim, but they want to go home on the boat. Rescue boat. Silver spat on the ground and went on. As for why I made a bargain with the Squire, well, look here. As he spoke, he pulled the map out of his pocket. Right here is why I done it. I looked and saw that it was the map with the 3 red crosses, the one I had found in the captain's sea chest. Dr. Livesey really had given it to Silver, but why? I could not imagine. The other mutineers were stunned too. They leaped on the map like ravenous beasts. It was passed from hand to hand, one tearing it from another, and by the oaths and the cries and the childish laughter with which they accompanied their examination, you would have thought they were fingering the gold itself, already loaded safely on the ship. So they're very excited that they have the real treasure map. They're acting like they already have the gold. Yes, said one, it's Flint's writing, sure enough. Then there's hope in it yet, exclaimed another. Mighty pretty, said George Mary, but how are we to get away with the treasure now that the ship's gone? How are we supposed to get away? Silver barked angrily. You ought to tell me. You and the rest that lost me my schooner. But no, you can't. You haven't got the invention of a cockroach. You lost the ship. I found the treasure. Who's the better man? By thunder, I resign. You can elect a new captain if you fancy. I'm done with it. By this point, the men had changed their minds. It was the map that convinced them. Silver, they cried. Silver for captain. John Silver forever. Okay, so now they've changed their mind. They don't want to kill Captain John Silver. They want to keep him as the captain because they didn't realize that he knew more of the plan than he was letting on. He actually had the treasure map. So that's the tune, is it? Said Silver. Well, George, I reckon you'll have to wait another turn. Here, Jim, here's a curiosity for you. He handed me the paper the men had given him. I saw that one side had been blackened with wood ash, while the other displayed the word deposed. After this, Silver tied me up, and we all went to sleep. Well, all except me, that is. I had trouble sleeping. As I lay in the darkness, I thought of the man I had fought that afternoon, and my perilous position. Above all, I thought of the remarkable game that Silver was playing, keeping the mutineers together with one hand while grasping with the other after every way possible and impossible to save his miserable life. He himself slept peacefully and snored loudly, yet my heart was sore for him. Wicked as he was, to think of the dangers that surrounded him and the shameful fate that surely awaited him. So Jim is explaining that Silver, he feels bad for Silver. And, I don't know why. He explains why. Somehow Silver's sleeping peacefully and Jim's feeling bad that the poor guy, his life sucks and he has a bad fate coming for him. So he's, not going to have a good future. And Jim is feeling bad for the poor pirate. I think Jim is too soft. The next morning, we prepared to set off to find the treasure. During breakfast, Silver ate with Captain Flint on his shoulder and reminded the other men how lucky they were to have him as their leader. "Aye, mates," he said, "it's lucky you have barbecue to thank for you with this here head. Sure enough, they have the ship. Where they have it, I don't know yet, but once we get the treasure, we'll find out. Then we'll be all set." Thus he ran on with his mouth full of bacon, restoring the mutineers' hope and the confidence and perhaps repairing his own at the same time. "As for the hostage," he continued, "I'll tie a rope around his waist and keep him close to me when we go treasure hunting in a bit. We'll keep him like gold in case we need him later." By the time we set out, all the pirates were armed to the teeth. Silver had 2 guns slung about him, the great cutlass at his waist, and a pistol in each coat pocket. So armed to the teeth means you just have a lot of weapons on you. So here they are. Here's all the pirates in the back with all their weapons and shovels and stuff. Here's Long John Silver with the parrot, all his guns and weapons, and he's got a string or a rope tied around Jim. And Jim has like a pickaxe thing. Maybe he can use that as a weapon and escape. All right. Page 78. To complete his strange appearance, Captain Flint sat perched upon his shoulder, squawking odds and ends of sea talk. So they're taking the parrot. Some of the men carried picks and shovels, while others carried pork, bread, and water for the midday meal. I had a line about my waist and followed after Silver like an obedient puppy. We began to climb a hill, and the men plunged ahead. They were in excellent spirits. Some of them even ran. Silver and I followed, I tethered by my rope, and he plowing through rocks and gravel with his wooden leg. We had gone about half a mile when one of the men gave a cry of terror. We ran forward and saw a skeleton on the ground. George Merry bent down to inspect the bones. "He must have been a seaman," he said, "for these scraps on his bones are bits of quality sea cloth." "Aye," said Silver, "you wouldn't find a bishop here, I reckon, but what sort of way is that for bones to lie? It ain't in nature." The dead man lay perfectly straight, with both arms raised above his head like a diver. We stood and stared at the skeleton for a minute before Silver broke the silence. So they found a weird skeleton, and he's in a weird position with like his arms up above his head. And they don't know who he is, where he came from, or anything like that. "I've taken a notion into my old skull," he said. "I think this poor fellow is a pointer. Get out the compass and take a bearing along the line the bones is pointing." It was done, and sure enough, the bones seemed to be pointing the way to the treasure. So somebody put this skeleton here, pointing, the arms raised above the head, pointing towards the treasure. Gross. So the skeleton is like an arrow on the ground. "I thought so," cried Silver. "This is one of Flint's little jokes. Him and those 6 fellows was alone here. He killed 'em, every man, and this one he laid down by compass to point the way." Because remember, Captain Flint went with 6 guys, and he was the only one to come back. All the other 6 were gone. They never came back to the boat. After a few minutes, we set off again, but the pirates no longer ran. They kept side by side and spoke softly. The terror of the fallen buccaneer had dampened their spirits. When we reached the top of the hill and saw the spyglass before us, Silver took bearings with his compass. "There are 3 tall trees," he said, "and they are in the right line. Should be child's play to find the loot now." So it means should be easy to find the treasure. All right, and that's it for chapter 8. So I'm going to put in my bookmark for our next chapter. And back to our workbook pages. So our vocab was on 93. Oh, but we have a new character we need to add to our character chart. Okay, so it's on page 6 in your workbook. Our character chart. Down here was George Merry, who we just met. That was chapter 8. George Merry. He was one of Silver's pirates. I guess that's how we can start our description of him. Gave Silver the black spot, maybe? He did that, right? He was the one. Gave Silver the black spot and wanted to mutiny. I think that's all we know about him so far. He did find or inspect the skeleton. I guess we can say inspected skeleton. He was the one who looked at the up close to the bones pointing the way to the treasure. Don't know if that's an important detail about him or not, but that's okay. We don't know too much about him, so we'll just go with that. Okay, so pause that there if you need to catch up. And back to our workbook pages. I took out my bookmark, of course. So, page 95, that's where we want to be. Okay, so these are the comprehension questions for chapter 8. Chapter 8 was titled My Life Hangs in the Balance. It was pages, I have no idea. It ended on 79, began on 72. Okay, so you're going to want to keep your reader open to pages 72 through 79 and explain your answer and explain your answers and add page numbers for where you found your evidence. You need to cite your evidence. Okay, so there's a part A and a part B one, so you have to support your answer with evidence. And on the back, there's only 4 questions total, so why did the pirates decide not to go forward with their mutiny? Rewrite the sentence they give you. And, oh, the last one, that's kind of different. So you have to put the events in order. So number 1 is the first event, all the way down to number 4, the last event that happens in the chapter. Okay? All right, so you can do that now, pause the video, or you can do it at the end, but make sure you do it because I get to correct your workbook soon. Okay, so after you've done that, or now I guess if you're saving the comprehension questions for later, we have a new grammar skill to work on. So it's, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I think you guys will like it. It's not too complicated. So we're working on conjunctions. There's multiple different kinds of conjunctions. We're working on coordinating conjunctions, and that's the only one we're gonna learn right now. So coordinating conjunctions. Conjunctions are words like and, but, so, and yet. So they kind of combine 2 ideas in a sentence. Okay, that's what a conjunction does. And you've probably learned that in previous grade levels, so hopefully that's review. But these are words that you'll find somewhere in the middle of a sentence that kind of combine 2 different ideas and put them together. That's what a conjunction does, okay? So sometimes we need a comma in a sentence that has a conjunction, and sometimes we don't, okay? So when we need a comma, it's when, you guys remember subjects and predicates in a sentence? So the subject is the who or the what, and the predicate is what they're doing. So if a sentence has 2 subjects and predicates, like 2 completely different sentences that's put together, then you need a comma. But if it's just adding an idea without another subject and predicate, there's no comma. Okay, so we'll go through and do these together so that it makes more sense. If we were together at school, we'd make a cool poster and do a bunch of examples on the board together, but that's okay. Okay, so the examples. For the first one, it says, do you want to come to the park with my sister and me? Okay, so the coordinating conjunction is and. The word and combines, it adds me to the sentence, okay? But on the other side of the and, so right here, this first part, do you want to come to the park with my sister? And then on the other side of the conjunction is me. There's not another subject and predicate over here on this side of the conjunction. So there's no comma, okay? For the second example, it says, she thought we should take a walk, but I thought we should stay home. The conjunction is but we put a comma right here because there's a subject and predicate on this side. There's also a subject and predicate over here, okay? She is the subject and thought we should take a walk is the predicate. On this side, I is the subject, thought we should stay home is the predicate. So there's a subject predicate, subject predicate. That's why we put a comma before the conjunction. Okay, see the first example, there's just a subject here, me. There's no predicate. Okay, so we'll go through these together. Hopefully it becomes a little more clear as we're going through, or maybe it makes sense already, okay? So, first step is just underlining when we see these words, and, but, so, or yet. It was cold outside, so we put on our coats. The conjunction is so. Does it need a comma? It was cold outside, so there's the first idea. After the conjunction, it says, we put on our coats. There's a subject, we, and what they did, the predicate, is put on our coats. So there's a subject predicate, so this one does need a comma. It was cold outside, comma, so we put on our coats. Okay? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Maybe it's a bit hard to see. Okay, number 2. He was going to go to the swimming pool, but decided not to go. But is the conjunction. He is the subject over here. Was going to go to the swimming pool is the predicate. On this side of the conjunction, it just says decided not to go. There's no subject. If it said he was going to go to the swimming pool, but he decided not to go, then we would need a comma. But there's only a predicate right here. There's no subject. So that one doesn't need a comma. That sentence is fine the way it is. Okay, number 3. He was sick, yet he looked well. Yet is the conjunction. Right here it says he was sick. He is the subject. Was sick is the predicate. On this side, he is the subject. Looked well is the predicate. So subject predicate needs a comma. If you're getting this and want to try the rest by yourself and then correct with me, go for it. Number 4, she is afraid of the dark, so her parents leave a light on for her. She is the subject, is afraid of the dark is the predicate. On the other side of the conjunction, her parents are the subject, leave a light on for her is the predicate. Subject predicate. It has both, so that one needs a comma. She's afraid of the dark, comma, so her parents leave a light on for her. Number 5. He walked the dog on Tuesday, and I walked the dog on Thursday. And is the conjunction. On this side, here's our subject, he, predicate, walked the dog on Tuesday. On this side of the conjunction, I is the subject, walked the dog on Thursday is the predicate. Subject predicate, so it needs a comma. She requested a glass of ice water, but the server brought lemonade instead. But is the conjunction. She is the subject, requested a glass of ice water is the predicate. On this side, the server is the subject, brought lemonade instead is the predicate. Subject predicate needs a comma. Okay, number 7. She enjoys listening to music and reading books in her spare time. and is the conjunction, she is the subject, enjoys listening to music is the predicate. On this side, it just says reading books in her spare time. So that's not another separate sentence. You wouldn't just say reading books in her spare time. That's just a predicate. Who enjoys reading books in her spare time? That's not a complete sentence by itself. So this one does not need a comma. They cannot be separate sentences, okay? She enjoys listening to music and reading books in her spare time. We don't need a comma, we don't need a pause, because that's not a separate idea. It's just listing another thing she likes to do in her spare time. But if it said, she enjoys listening to music and she enjoys reading books in her spare time, then we would need a comma because we added the word she, so there's a subject in between. But since it's not like that, no comma for number 7. Number 8. He loves peanut butter but is allergic to it. But is the conjunction. He is the subject, loves peanut butter is the predicate. On this side, it just says is allergic to it. That's just a predicate. There's no subject there, so no comma. Number 9. People said my neighbor wasn't friendly, yet she was very nice to me. Yet is the conjunction. People is the subject. Said my neighbor wasn't friendly is the predicate. On this side of the conjunction, she is the subject. Was very nice to me is the predicate. So subject, predicate, needs a comma before the conjunction. All right, last one on this page, number 10. Gotta zoom back out to fit it all on the page. He wanted to be a superhero for Halloween, but his mother wanted him to be a robot. For Halloween, I hope, not in real life. Okay, but is the conjunction. He is the subject. Wanted to be a superhero for Halloween is the predicate. His mother is the subject. Wanted him to be a robot is the predicate. Subject, predicate, subject, predicate. So it needs a comma before the conjunction because it's two different, it can be two different sentences. It's just combined with the word but. Okay? Pause it on that page if you need to correct or find any, fix any. The ones without the comma are number 2, 7, and 8. Just those, I think. Yep. The rest of them all need commas. Okay, back page. Oh, there's more. Okay, let's continue. I'll zoom back in a bit. I'm getting thirsty. I've been talking so much. Okay, number 11. My favorite colors are blue and orange. And is our conjunction. My favorite colors are the subject. Are blue is predicate. On this side, it just says orange. Obviously, no subject there. They're just listing more colors, right? So, no comma. 11 does not need a comma. Number 12, it was very dark outside, yet it was still early in the evening. Yet is the conjunction. It is the subject. Was very dark outside is the predicate. It is the subject. Was still early in the evening is the predicate. Subject, predicate, subject, predicate. Needs a comma before the conjunction. Number 13, they wanted ice cream, so I took them to the ice cream shop. So is the conjunction. They is the subject. Wanted ice cream is the predicate. I is the subject. Took them to the ice cream shop is the predicate. Subject, predicate, subject, predicate. Needs a comma. I wanted to go to the party, yet I had to miss it. Yet is our conjunction. I is the subject. Wanted to go to the party is the predicate. I is the subject. Had to miss it is the predicate. Subject, predicate, needs a comma. Oh, I'm getting tired of saying that. Okay, number 15. I was really tired, so I went to bed early. That sounds nice. So is the conjunction. I is the subject. Was really tired is the predicate. On the other side, I is the subject. Went to bed early is the predicate. Subject, predicate, subject, predicate. 2 complete sentences, just joined by the word so it needs a comma. Last one, they have 2 dogs and 2 cats. Wrong, I have 3 cats. Okay, they is the subject, have 2 dogs is the predicate. On this side it just says 2 cats. That's not a complete sentence. What about the 2 cats, right? They're just listing more things that they have. So they have is the subject. This whole thing is the predicate that goes with this subject. So it does not need a comma. But what if it said they have 2 dogs and they also have 3 cats. Okay, what if that was the sentence instead? Pretend like I didn't write the number 3. Okay. They have 2 dogs and they also have 3 cats. Subject, predicate, so then it would need a comma because I added the word they. They also have, right? Now I added a subject and the predicate. So I changed it. In this sentence, it would need a comma. In this one, it does not. Can you see the difference? I hope you can. All right, that's it for that page, so pause it if you need it. So thirsty. So parched. Like a pirate. Okay. Last page that we're technically doing together. Okay. On this page, we're working on some morphology stuff, some vocabulary things. We are working with suffixes. So remember, suffix is the part that's added on to the end of a word. And these ones are actually opposites. So full at the end of a word means full of whatever that thing. It's full of blank. And then less at the end of the word means like lacking or without that thing. Without whatever, okay? So helpful, you're full of help. Faith is just, well, it's a name of a student in my class, but that's just the root word, no suffix. Flaw, no suffix yet. Senseless, so there's the suffix less, so that means without sense. So senseless just kind of means like dumb. That was a senseless thing to do. That was a dumb thing to do. Sense, just the root word. Helpless, so without help, can't be helped. Endless, so without an end. Faithful, so full is full of something. Full of faith. And end, just root word of endless. Okay. So, it's front and back. Oh my goodness. It's just fill in the blanks, and then on some of them, like number 7, you have to use the words in a sentence. Let's go through real quick and make sure we got the right words and the right blanks. If you want to try it on your own, though, you can. Pause the video. Try it. Number 1, would you read my sentence and make sure that it makes sense? I'm just going to go through these quickly. If you want to do it on your own time, pause the video. Number 2, when her brother was nervous about trying out for the school play, she told him she had blank in his abilities. She had faith in his abilities. Number 3, they didn't understand why the woman would hurt someone on purpose. It seemed blank and illogical to them. So illogical means without logic. So it seemed senseless, without sense. Why would you hurt somebody on purpose? That's senseless. You have no sense. Doesn't make sense. Number 4, the list of chores on the fridge seemed blank. Endless. List of chores seemed endless, like it would never end. Does not have an end. Number 5, when buying clothes, my mother always inspects the material to make sure there are no flaws. So the word in the blank was just flaw, but this S means it can be added to whatever word you put here. So flaws is really the word. Number 6, when I was struggling with math, my tutor was very blank and explained things in a way that I could understand. Was very helpful. Be funny if the tutor was helpless though, because that means that your tutor's not helping you. You want your tutor to be helpful, not helpless. And then number 7 is for you to do. Write a sentence using one of the words left in the box. So either helpless, faithful, or end. Write a sentence using one of those words. There's a back page though. Oh my goodness, what are they trying to do to us? Just kidding, it's only been 40 minutes. In a real class with me, this would have taken us an hour and a half. Okay. We have more words in the box, still using suffixes full and less. So powerful, full of power. Success is just the root word. Careless, without care, so not very carefully. Power is just the root word. Successful, so full of success. Careful, full of care. Powerless, so without power. Help and care are just the root words. Number 8, when we won our baseball championship, we felt like a blank team that had really accomplished something. So if they won something, they would feel successful. Felt like a or powerful team. Successful team, powerful team. Let's say successful. If we need to change it later, we can, but no, I think successful because accomplished something. If you accomplish something, you're successful. Okay. Number 9. Everyone else voted against me, so I was blank to change their minds. Powerless. I was powerless to change their minds. You have no power to change their minds. Number 9, on a ship, the captain makes decisions, gives orders, and is the most blank person. Powerful person. Has the most power. They are full of power. Number 11, my sister saw me struggling and asked if I needed blank with my homework. If you needed help with your homework. I've been calling your parents every week and asking if you need help with your homework. Number 12, the king holds the blank and authority in a kingdom. Holds the power and authority. Your teacher holds the power and authority in your classroom, sometimes. Number 13, when the neighbor ran over the toy left in the driveway, the boy knew he should not have been so careless. He did not have care. He left his toy in the driveway and it got run over. Number 14, write a sentence using one of the words left in the box. So success, power, careful, or care. Write a sentence using one of those words. You can do that now. You can do that at the end. We're basically done. I was just going to explain over here. On page 101, these are the spelling words. There are 12 of them. They're just using all the different suffixes that we have learned, like able, full, and less. Okay, so they're just using different suffixes that we've learned before. Remember, like I've said before, there's no way that I can fairly give you guys a spelling test. So if you want to practice these words, do that. If you don't, I'm not going to test you on them. So practice ideas right here, and then there's the definitions on the back page. And page 103, you're just sorting the words into whatever column matches the suffix. Okay? And that's it for this lesson. Wasn't it so short and fun? Miss you guys. Bye.